There is a sentence written on this painting, not painted, written in pencil by hand in the top left corner. For most of a century, the museum world filed it as damage. Stand here with me a moment. It reads, "Can only have been painted by a madman." Somebody looked at this picture and wrote a verdict on it. In February 2021, a museum in Oslo pointed an infrared camera at that sentence. They were not looking for a vandal. They were comparing handwriting. To understand what they found, you need three things: the house this man grew up in, what he actually wrote down on that hillside, and what the city said about him, out loud, in a public hall. Start with the house. Edvard Munch was born on 12th of December 1863 in a country that buried a great many of its children. His family was educated, devout, and poor in the way that professional families can be poor. When he was 5, his mother died of a wasting illness. He would have been old enough to remember the room and too young to be told why. When he was 14, the same illness took his elder sister, Sophie. He was in the house for that one too. He painted that room over and over for the rest of his life. His father died in November some years later. One of his sisters would spend much of her adult life under medical care. It would be easy to picture a boy alone with all this, teaching himself to paint in a cold room. That picture is wrong, and it matters that it is wrong. He trained. He studied under working painters. He spent time in Paris. He read the arguments of his own century. By his late 20s, he was a professional with a network and a reputation. The reputation was the problem. He painted rooms where people were dying, and he painted them without arranging the grief neatly. This is the part everyone knows. It is also the part that lets you stop looking. He had another 52 years to live, and he spent them being explained. Because once you know a painter lost his mother, his sister, and his father, every dark picture he ever makes has an explanation waiting for it. The explanation arrived early. It arrived in public, and it arrived from people who had never met him. In 1892, an artists' association in Berlin invited him to show his work. The exhibition opened. Then the association argued about it. Then they closed it, after 1 week. Read that again, because the detail does the work. They did not ignore him. They hung the pictures, looked at them, argued, and voted to take them down. The association split over it. He was 28 years old and had just become the kind of artist people close a room over. That is not a failure. In Berlin, it was closer to a career. So by the early 1890s, the story was already assembled. A man from a house full of illness, making pictures that upset people. Everything after that gets read through it. Which is why it matters that he wrote down exactly what happened. But the file says otherwise. Not the painting, the note. There is a sheet in the Munch Museum's archive, catalogued and dated to 1892. It is not a caption. It is a first-person account, written after the fact. He later wrote a version of it in paint on the frame of one of the pictures and signed it. Here is that version, in his words. "I was walking along the road with 2 friends. The sun was setting. The sky turned a bloody red. And I felt a whiff of melancholy. I stood still, deathly tired. Over the blue-black fjord and city hung blood and tongues of fire." My friends walked on. I remained behind, shivering with anxiety. I felt the great scream in nature. Read that line again. The scream is not his. It is in nature, and it is passing through him. Now look at the painting again. Nobody in this picture is screaming. The hands are not on the mouth, they are over the ears. He gave it a German title when he showed it abroad. It translates as The Scream of Nature. The title has been telling us this the whole time. People have argued for decades about why that sky was red. One team proposed volcanic ash, carried around the world after an eruption in 1883. Another countered that ash cannot explain the waviness, and that ash skies were common for years, while his was a single night. That is scholarly debate, not a verdict. And it is not the question this picture actually turns on. He finished the painting in 1893, tempera and oil crayon, on a sheet of cardboard. 2 years later, he brought it home. In 1895, it went on show in his own city for the first time. The reviews were poor. And then something happened that does not usually happen to a painting. The Students' Association held a public debate about his work. A young medical student stood up and argued that these pictures were grounds to question the artist's sanity. Not the pictures, the artist. He was 31. He had been in the room while his mother died and while his sister died. And now a stranger was reading those rooms back to him as a diagnosis. Sometime in or after 1895, somebody took a pencil to the top left corner of the painting. 8 words. Can only have been painted by a madman. For a long time, scholarship assumed a visitor had done it. By 2008, that was the majority view. An angry member of the public, defacing a picture he disliked. The sentence was catalogued as damage. Then, in February 2021, the National Museum in Oslo photographed it in infrared and compared the letters to his diaries and his letters. It was his handwriting. He wrote it himself. The museum's curator put it plainly. The finding closes the question about who the author of the inscription was. Why he did it, the museum will not say for certain. The likeliest reading is that he heard the verdict and agreed with it in pencil on his own painting. That part remains a reading, not a fact. What happened to the painting afterwards is almost a separate story. It spent the 20th century being taken. The 1893 version entered the National Collection in 1910 as a gift. The museum's own record still reads, "Gift from Olaf Skå, 1910. A later version, in pastel, was owned by a family friend and collector. When the occupying army came, he hid it in a hay barn. It stayed there, in the straw, until it was safe. On 12th of February 1994, on the opening morning of the Winter Olympics, 2 men put a ladder against the National Gallery. The date was the point. The country's police, its press and its attention were all at Lillehammer. They were inside and out in under a minute. They left a note thanking the museum for its poor security. The museum refused to pay the ransom. An undercover operation recovered it on 7 May that year, undamaged. 10 years later, they came for a different version. On 22nd August 2004, in daylight, with the public inside, 2 armed men walked into the Munch Museum and took it off the wall. The first theft needed darkness and a way up a wall. This one needed neither, because a weapon removes the need for both. It was gone for 2 years. It came back on 31st August 2006. The police never explained how. In 2012, the pastel version, the one from the barn, went to auction in New York. It sold on 2nd May for just under $120 million. At that moment, it was the most expensive painting ever sold at auction. 4 painted versions exist. He also cut it into a print so it could travel. He wanted this image to move. As for the man the city had diagnosed in public, this is what the museum's own record says happened next. In 1908, on the brink of exhaustion, he asks to be committed to Dr. Daniel Jacobson's private clinic in Copenhagen. 13 years after that debate, he asked, "No one has reduced that year to a single cause, and this film will not try." He came out. He worked for another 35 years. He died on 23rd January 1944 and left almost everything he owned to the city that had put him on trial in a lecture hall. Thousands of pictures, thousands of pages. It moved further than he could have planned. The face is on posters, on masks, on merchandise. And it is on the keyboard of the phone in your hand. A private moment on a hillside, standardized into a button anyone can press. Go back to the hillside one more time. Two friends walked on. One man stopped. The one who stopped is the one we are still looking at. He agreed with the verdict. He wrote it on the picture himself, in pencil, where anyone could find it. It took 126 years and an infrared camera to work out that the confession was his. The painting stays the same. You won't. Thank you for watching. This was the story behind the painting, and I'm Marcus Rowe. Until next time, keep looking closer.